How do you manage risk while also taking necessary risks?
Well, it's really difficult. I call my risk-taking responsible risk-taking, but not all of it is that responsible. I mean, for example, flying a single-engined aircraft across the Atlantic Ocean in bad weather, when I was halfway between Greenland and Iceland, I got into a terrible storm and I was at 500 feet down over the water, and then the weather closed in on me and I couldn't turn around and go back.
So you're out in the water, no help, terrible weather.
800 kilometre crossing of one of the wildest oceans on Earth in a little single engine helicopter that had no floats. It couldn't float. It would take 30 seconds to sink. So if I had an engine failure, helicopters auto-rotate. I would auto-rotate down to the water. That would take about 25 seconds. Then it would float for about 15 seconds as it rolled over, and I'd have to get out into my little life raft and somehow climb into it. But I remember looking down on that flight thinking, if I have an engine failure now, I'm going to be dead. I won't get out of it. So that was crossing the Atlantic. Then in crossing Australia in the balloons people couldn't believe at one stage we took off from Carnarvon near the west coast, and the plan was to try right across Australia to near the east coast. No one had ever done that before. There'd been 4 or 5 attempts.
How do you control the balloon?
Well, that's the problem. The balloon only goes with the wind. And we knew that there's a jet stream called a jet stream across Australia in winter. And so the plan was to get into the balloon, climb up into the jet stream, which is above 20,000 feet. You can't even breathe without oxygen. And then hold on and hope that the jet stream will take you across Australia. Well, we got airborne. We first of all got blown the incorrect way. We got blown towards Africa, but eventually we climbed enough and we got into the jet stream. And at one stage we were doing 160 kilometres an hour.
In a balloon?
In a balloon, 160 kilometres an hour. We're at 23,000 feet, oxygen mask on. And I thought, if we get out of this alive, we're going to be lucky, because you can't land the balloon in more than about 10 kilometres of wind, because the gondola would just get smashed along in the ground and hit trees and hit power lines and things like that. And so, but as I've been so lucky in my adventures, after being 160 kilometres an hour and after 40 hours in the air, we started to descend. We crossed the Great Dividing Range and we were just at the back of Surfers Paradise. We started to descend, and I'm pretty scared by now with John Wallington, my co-pilot. I think we're going to get injured when we crash. We even thought maybe we should keep going and land in the ocean because our gondola would float. Anyway, we started descending. Then I looked down and it was on the Clarence River, and I realised the water was completely smooth. There was no wind at all. So what we'd done, we'd taken off from Carnarvon in the west coast of Australia, taken off in zero wind, flown it up to 160 kilometres an hour, then descended and landed in no wind just near Surfers Paradise. So talk about luck. So I have responsible risk-taking, but I call that luck as well.